Hello everyone, Autistic Virgin here, and welcome to the Hotline Miami game review. As some of you may know, St. Patrick's Day I uploaded the finale of Hotline Miami to my gaming channel, and today I bring you the game review. So, without further ado, let's get into the review, starting off with the plot. Now, the plot of Hotline Miami takes place after World War II, during the Cold War. And you see, all the people in the white jackets are Russian people. They're kind of Russian, well, they kind of are Russian gangsters. And I guess if you want to go with the appropriate timeline, then it would be Soviets. Because if you forget or haven't taken a history class or whatever the case may be, back then in the late 80s and even before that, Russia was known as the USSR, the Soviet Union. So sometimes I might say Russian, sometimes I might say Soviet Union. I would say it's kind of the same thing, but technically no. But yeah, so you play as the character Jacket, who is tired of all these Russians in Miami after the Soviet Union, I believe, has won the Cold War in this timeline, and they're taking over the United States. And just as I said, Jacket's getting tired of it, and you go around as Jacket, killing the Russians or the Soviets, whatever you want to say there. And you are directed to the address in which your mission is gonna be, each chapter with a phone call. Whether it be Jim or what have you, it's always like, hey, well, we need you to DJ, or hey, we need you to babysit, we need you to whatever, at this address. And the thing will tell you an address. And just as I said, you go there, you kill all the Russians or Soviets, and you progress to the next chapter. And so now we have gameplay, so now we have gameplay. Just as I said, the game takes place in Miami, of course, Hotline Miami, who could have guessed it? But gameplay, it is a great looking game. I think I've said before that I would prefer a game to have great gameplay instead of look very pretty. But Hotline Miami definitely has both those things in terms of gameplay. It looks beautiful. The combat is phenomenal. And personally, this has been among the all-time are among my all-time favorite games that I have ever played in my life. And just coming up with stuff for this section is hard, but just as I said, you go around, you are killing the Russians or Soviets, and you have different masks that you can spice things up with. Like, I played with the wolf mask. I don't remember the names exactly, but I do know that the owl, I believe, I think it's the owl, I could be wrong, but the owl name is a tribute to one of the creator's sons. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but the rooster mask, whose name is Richard, the first mask you get, is named Richard for that reason. You know, Richard's, Dick is short for Richard for some reason. I would still love to know how Dick is short for Richard. It just is. And as you know, a chicken. Yeah, I love that little joke that they put in there. But yeah, so it's touched on more in the second game. That's why I'm not gonna... Or it's explored more in the second game, so that's why I'm not gonna talk about it here a whole lot, but the masks have, like, personalities besides giving you abilities. Like, there's a mask that you can survive one bullet with. There's a mask that spawns you with a knife, which is what I really like to use. There's a mask that makes you walk faster. And there's a mask that makes you see farther. And it's things like a crocodile or an alligator, whatever that one mask is. And a giraffe, an elephant, a rooster is what I mentioned, an owl, another one that I mentioned, and stuff like that. And I love that you get to choose the mask that you want, assuming that you've unlocked it, to use and get a special ability. Just as I said, whether it be to look farther, or to spawn with a knife, or to walk faster. One of them's called Lethal Doors, or that's not the name of the mask, but the ability is Lethal Doors. And what that means is that whenever you push open a door, and if it hits an enemy, it kills them instead of knocks them out. So, whatever mask you want to use is fine with me. So now, let's move on to the characters. Now, I'm not going to talk about the masks, although you could technically consider them characters, but for the sake of me not knowing all their names, and I would say for the sake of them not being playable characters, but you can use the masks, and I'm going to include non-playable characters in here as well, then that wouldn't fit, but I'm not going to include the masks in this part. You could if you want, and I understand why you would, but I'm not going to. So just as I said, you have the protagonist jacket in chapters 1 through 15 of this fantastic game. And then you play as Biker. Can't remember his name. I think his name is Biker. Oh, Can't remember right now. I hate that I can't, but you play as Jacket for the first 15 chapters. And in chapter 5 or 6, somewhere in there, you go to this, I can't remember what it is, but you go to a place and there's this girl that's like all tied up, like lost hope with everything, you know. She's kind of being held captive there, and you take her home. And I didn't notice this at first, but as you go through with the chapters, you know, stuff changes. Like, at first she'll sleep on the couch, you know, and then she'll sleep in the bedroom, in a bed, not in your bed, but with the two nightstands in between each other and some space there. And then eventually the beds get moved together. Yeah, I think his name is Biker. That you play as for chapters 16 through 20, which do still contribute to the story, but I decided to play off camera. I've completed chapters 16 and 17. I still need to complete 18 through 20. I will do that very soon. But you see Biker in chapter 10, I believe it is, in that phone call center, and if you play all the way through as Biker, you know, 16 through 22, you don't have to complete the game, but it's preferred because it goes along with the story too. You will see from that fight Biker's perspective, you trying to kill Jacket, and why Biker is there. And out of the other protagonists, I mean, you have the three characters that are in the first scene wearing the Richard mask, the Rooster mask, an owl mask, and a horse mask, and they ask you questions, all that stuff. And I think that pretty much sums it up for protagonists. In terms of antagonists, you have all the regular Soviets that I mentioned, you know, all the Russians that are in there, that are in the white jackets, and then you have the, what I like to call mob bosses, the African Americans in the suits that you could not kill with just a knife, or that you could not kill with a knife. You had to shoot them like twice. It depended on what, it depended It depended. It depended. I can't say that word right now, but anyway. I think, well, with some guns you couldn't kill them with one shot either, so. And then you got the people that would be running the show at the final or not the final chapter, but at the tail end of all the chapters. Like, at chapter 14, I remember doing that. Seeing that one guy that claimed that he wasn't in charge of everything, and just pleading ignorance to it all, and then you practically kill him. And then, I guess you could say as a protagonist, that guy you kill in the police station too, in chapter 13. So, all those people you can count as antagonists. So, I think that will do it for all the characters. If I forgot any of the characters, please comment down below, because I would love to know which ones I missed. And so yes, time to move on to what I liked / loved. Now, this is a Hotline Miami game review. So of course, you have to show some love to the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. This game has won awards based on the soundtrack alone. And I have some soundtrack playing, or I have a song from the soundtrack playing in the background. I don't know which song it is right now, but I like it. And I read that a lot of people do not like Chapter 12, you know, the one chapter where you're in a hospital, or where you wake up in a hospital, and you do not kill anyone, but you try to go around in the rooms and avoid the nurses and doctors there, and walk out of the hospital. I actually didn't hate that. I did not hate that. I think I said that in that video, but I did not hate that. I kind of liked that too. It was a nice change of pace, and I like a change of pace every once in a while, instead of just the same thing all the time. Not that I hated the killing, but that was a nice refresher. Let's see, I also liked... the gameplay was phenomenal, as I said. The game looked phenomenal. And I loved that I could use any number of masks that I chose, and I could use any number of guns or weapons or what have you that I wanted to use. And I liked that variety that the game has. And I also really liked that I got it on sale too for a cheap buck. Or at a cheap price. I know this section may be short, but there's just so many things that I liked about this. I just liked the game as a whole. I loved the physics, I liked killing. Sometimes I really loved it. But yeah. You know, jokingly enough, I cannot listen to the Hotline Miami soundtrack here on YouTube without hearing guns going off, the sounds of doors opening and stuff like that. I just can't hear it without that. Like, my mind just has it playing in the background. And some of you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you will not know. But yeah. Before I move on from... you know, I'm going to save it for the final thoughts. Okay, so, now, final thoughts. There is one thing that I did not like about the game, however. And that is that a couple of the songs that were on the soundtrack and that are particularly in between the chapters, or whenever you finish off a chapter, like after you go back to, or after it's sent back to your apartment, not just the screen where it's telling you like, hey, well, you got this time bonus, door slammed, you know, stuff like that, and gives you your grade on how you did. I'm talking about in the apartment here, but a couple of those tracks had copyright, and I did not know about it going in, and I had to spend extra time just removing the song clip from the video, and I am not a fan of removing copyrighted music. I don't put it in there. I don't use copyrighted music. Because I hate having to work and take it out later. But that's like the one thing that I did not like about the game. That's my one drawback. But yes, so before I end off this game review, because I basically expressed my thoughts in each one of the sections before this, I was going to mention how much I love the game, or how much I love the graphics, but I'm not going to, just plain out. But before I end off this game review, I would like to thank the game publisher and developer, or the people that made this possible, or that made this game possible, Donation Games and Devolver Digital. I would like to thank them for making a beautiful game that I would stick my dick into. Yes, I would highly recommend this, and I cannot wait to play the sequel. And CS guys, tip: enemies are predictable.